Story 1. When my friends come to me for advice or just to vent, it feels rewarding, especially when they feel better afterward. Knowing I can be helpful to them or make them feel heard is the best compliment I could receive. Story 2. It was work-related. A senior civil servant in Whitehall stated during a meeting with influential figures that the information I provided was the best in the country. Story 3. 2 days ago, someone said to me, "Your music scratches an itch I've been unable to scratch for weeks now. Thank you. That means a lot more to me than you might expect." Story 4. Thank you for being you. I was conducting an evaluation for a patient and spent about 30 minutes with them. When I was finished, they said this. I receive compliments from patients occasionally, but this one stood out to me, and I still think about it. Story 5. I am not worthy of it. You are the only one worthy of it. I was nominated and won an award along with prize money for a short story I wrote for a creative writing class. My professor encouraged me to submit it for a contest, despite my reluctance to seek attention for what was a deeply personal piece. I have a history of doubting my talents, even though I recognize my strengths. Story 6. You have perfect genes. This was said by a female biochemistry PhD who was assisting on a project. Looking back, I'm fairly certain she was flirting with me. Story 7. He is the person at the company that nobody knows what he does, but when something expensive breaks, he will show up, kick it twice, and it will be fixed. You might not see him for a while, but more importantly, I feel safe with you. Story 8. When people call me smart, it surprises them when I am young. As I grow older, it seems that no one cares as much. I'm fine with this situation, but I do value my intelligence and enjoy receiving compliments about it. It is also important to recognize that many traits are more important than being smart, but I have to admit that intelligence is my favorite compliment to receive. Story 9. Your voice had a significant impact on me. It was definitely an interesting experience, and I did not fully appreciate it as a compliment until later. Story 10. Your cheerful hellos and positive energy made me excited to come to work, and you lifted my mood during my divorce. Story 11. My chiropractor told me I have really broad shoulders and asked if I played sports. I told her no. I'm just overweight and throw 400-pound tires around for work. That was back in February, and I'm still riding that high. Story 12. I told my new wife that I did not want to have children because I had a tough childhood growing up without a father and did not feel equipped to be a parent. She told me that if we had kids and they turned out as kind and wonderful as she is, then why would I deprive the world of this? I am the proud father of 2 amazing children, and I am so glad that she changed my mind with her kind words. Story 13. One morning, my girlfriend and I were lying in bed. She reached over and placed her hand on me, which happened to be hard at the time. She left it there for a moment, and I think it twitched in response to her touch. She got startled, looked down, and exclaimed, "Holy cow! I thought I was holding onto your forearm." Story 14. Not sure if this is considered a compliment, but I loved it. One night, my niece texted me and said she was watching Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. She mentioned that if she won the golden ticket, she would bring me along. It has been making me smile ever since. Story 15. A leader in our industry once asked me for a letter of recommendation for a new company. I would be glad to write that. Story 16. The high school orchestra conductor told me he appreciated that I liked to help and that I had a reputation among the teachers in the community for being helpful. This has stuck with me ever since, especially coming from him. Story 17. You treat women like people. I pushed back against this a bit, but the person clarified that I give off a balance of being truly equal. I think about it a lot. Story 18. I can't believe a relative's daughter named her imaginary friend after me. Do you know how flattering that is? Story 19. I was hit by a drunk teenager my senior year of high school, and after waking up a few days later, the long and difficult road to recovery from a traumatic brain injury began. I felt self-conscious and ashamed of the brain-damaged idiot I had become. One of the greatest sources of embarrassment was my verbal impulsivity. I lacked the filter that others use to keep their inappropriate thoughts to themselves. When I met up with one of my best friends while he was home for spring break the year after my accident, I felt comfortable and relaxed, and my defenses were down. As he drove me home that night and said goodbye, he told me, "No offense, but I kind of like you better this way." That was music to my ears. It was the most loving, reassuring, and supportive thing I had ever heard. Story 20. He giggled and said that I smelled like sunshine and puppy kisses. It was so off the wall that it is probably the only one I genuinely remember. Story 21. I was the reason a group of people decided to stay in a speakeasy in Miami. She mentioned that I had a great vibe, both confident and easygoing. They weren't sure about the place until she saw me and felt my energy. Then she thanked me for that. I was amazed. Story 22. My boyfriend said I had old-growth tree eyes, and as a brown-eyed person, there are few compliments I have received that have made me that flustered. I love him so much. Story 23. I once received a card from my son that said I was the best example of unfailing love he had ever seen. I will keep that card forever. Story 24. That I saved their life. All I did was treat them like a person. Nothing extra, nothing special. I am not special. It was the second time someone said that to me. Courtesy and treating people with dignity count. Story 25. You are a tough person after fighting someone who is now a good friend. He was not at that time of the altercation. Story 26. For some reason, I have never gotten over someone calling me a gentleman. I honestly do not see myself that way, but I guess the way I dress gives off that vibe. Still, that comment stuck with me. Story 27. My partner always says kind things. On a lighter note, when the youth I work with tell me I'm cool or have great style, I realize I'm in my 30s and starting to feel old. Story 28. I'm in my late 60s. I have a dear friend who is in her mid-20s. Every once in a while, she references something I am not familiar with and then says, "Oh yeah, I forgot you are older." I love that. Story 29. My coworker was describing me to my wife. She asked him what he wanted for Christmas. I will take the compliment. Story 30. Your cat is the sweetest cat I have ever seen. Some people told me that. About myself? Well, I do not receive compliments, especially not about my physical appearance. Story 31. I don't have everything together as much as others my age, especially in terms of my career and finances. However, I enjoy music and art, and I have been praised for my creativity. Story 32. Your brain is like the universe, but turned inside out. A person I admired said this to me in front of a group of coworkers who had just burst out laughing at one of my remarks. I have always prided myself on my intellect, comedic wit, and unique observations of the world around me. So hearing someone summarize their perception of my character in such a way meant a great deal to me. Story 33. My dentist said I am too young to lose any more teeth. I haven't been too young for something in 20 years. Story 34. You're beautiful. I really want to kiss you right now. It means a lot to me, as I have struggled with my looks and self-image for more than half of my life. Story 35. The clerk at Kohl's told me I am still human, despite being visually impaired, when I apologized for taking too long during the checkout process. You would be surprised how much this matters to people and everything that comes with it or the lack thereof. Story 36. I resemble Jack Black. I've been told this numerous times this year. At my son's baseball game, everyone yells, "Say chicken jockey," and erupts into cheers when I do. Story 37. A coworker who I believe has a crush on me once patted me on the shoulder as an excuse to touch my muscles. It made me wish I were gay. Story 38. I visited my doctor, and she suddenly said, "You are a bright person. Your life will be very hard. But believe me, you will achieve all your goals." I remember these words every day, and they give me motivation. Story 39. I visited New York City, and a candy shop worker, a nice middle-aged man, showed us around and then said, "May I say, you have the best eyebrows in New York. Most people have bullied me over my bushy eyebrows, so I will never forget that." Story 40. You know what you're doing. When you feel like you don't have a clue about anything and you're a complete mess, it's nice to hear. Story 41. When I worked in a department store, A woman once said that I looked like a shield maiden, and I have held on to that ever since. Story 42. Many people have told me they love to listen to me talk, and I've been compared to Morgan Freeman on multiple occasions because of my voice. It's not entirely the same, but it is undeniable that I have a really good voice. Story 43. You were the best nurse I have ever had. You helped me so much. You made all the difficult days worthwhile. Story 44. I feel safe to love you, my now wife, after we dated for about a month. She came from an ex who caused significant mental abuse. Story 45. Your son is so happy and well-mannered. He is an angel in public, despite being a lively 5-year-old. You're like a female Ryan Reynolds, said my coworker who I make laugh. Story 46. I was walking around town when a guy on a bike yelled to me that I smelled good and that I left a trail on the street behind me. I felt super proud of my scent layering routine. Story 47. In college, there were rumors of a Swedish supermodel who lived in the building. It was me, but I was neither. While it may not have been the best compliment I received, it definitely gave me a boost at the time. Story 48. An old university friend, who is very religious, once looked at me and said, "You really must have a beautiful guardian angel." At the time, it caught me off guard since I am not religious at all. However, later on, I thought about it and realized that, regardless of belief, it was actually a really beautiful thing to say. Story 49. A friend of mine, whom I used to see more often, once said, "You're wearing your old aftershave." I replied, "Do you like it?" They responded, "It makes me feel safe." Story 50. I had a boyfriend once tell me I looked like a piece of ripe fruit. One of the best compliments I've ever received. Story 51. You must be Irish because you are just as beautiful as Humphrey Bogart and Ronald Reagan. I am an admittedly Irish woman. Story 52. A well-known history professor once responded to my Twitter post by saying that I ask interesting questions. I took it as a compliment. I don't think it was a backhanded one. It made my day. Story 53. When my 6-year-old granddaughter told me I have beautiful eyes, it was such an honest remark. I hold it dear. Story 54. You look like your toes are always painted white. I don't know why, but I really loved this compliment. It made me feel great. Story 55. A few have stuck with me, and I can't believe I'm admitting this because I understand how self-absorbed this sounds. You are the only person in this whole company that everybody loves. My boss. Story 56. I can't explain it, but you have really intense eyes that stare into someone's soul. I know you're working, but my friend and I thought you have a really nice figure. As a guy with a flat but chubby backside, I appreciate it. Story 57. The only compliments that touch my heart are those about my writing. I am very self-conscious about it, and I love hearing that someone has enjoyed or found meaning in it. Story 58. Someone once complimented my genetics, saying I looked like a Greek statue with a strong jawline. It's been about 2 years, and I'm still riding that wave. Story 59. I like your style. It is simple for most, but it took me a long time to find my personal style. Now, when I receive compliments while I am out, it truly makes me happy. Story 60. I was in graduate school, and even though my program was in biotechnology, we had to take a few courses in related non-science subjects. I chose a class on biotechnology law. The second half of the class always involved a debate on a topic in front of the rest of the class, and it did not end until everyone had participated in at least one debate. Since I was also working at the time and feeling exhausted by the time I got to class, I always volunteered to go first to get it over with. Halfway through the semester, I raised my hand and realized you could hear a pin drop in the room. Suddenly alert and noticing that no one was making direct eye contact with me, I felt really strange and blurted out, "Do you all not like me or something?" After another 30 seconds, someone finally responded, "We're all kind of afraid to debate you." Story 61. A random person visiting my school's band walked up behind me while I was playing marimba. We were performing Rage by Randall Standridge, a really cool piece. He told me that I had great rhythmic intuition. I'm not sure what it means or who he was, but it was nice to hear. My friend also mentioned that I am extremely lovable. I disagree, but it made me kind of happy. Story 62. I am humble. Of all the humble people I have met, I am definitely the most humble. Story 63. A woman randomly stopped me in a shopping center and said how much she loved my outfit and how great I looked. It was the first time something like this had happened to me. Story 64. After separating, a coworker for whom I have immense respect told me I was a catch and that life would be okay. Story 65. I was driving for Uber when it first started. I picked up 3 women. 2 got in the back and 1 in the front seat. The front seat passenger looked me up and down and said, "I'd swipe you right." Story 66. Despite what others say about you, you are truly a good-hearted person who tries your best, even when you know you might fail. I wish you would show that side of yourself more often instead of allowing others to demean you every day. This was said to me by a popular girl in high school during a sincere moment after a football game when I faced a tough loss as a sophomore defensive back against seniors who were highly skilled recruits with Division I offers to major college conferences. Story 67. Someone told me I received a few extra quality lines when God was creating me. I still smile and blush when thinking about it. Story 68. I was working in a stationery store during the summer, so there were many kids coming in for school supplies. To make the kids happy, we had a wheel they could spin to win a small toy. I love kids and enjoy making them happy and laugh, so I would entertain them by encouraging them to show how strong they were by spinning the wheel quickly, telling jokes, and letting them go behind the cash register to see how it worked. I also hid some toys in my pockets and would give them those extra toys. I developed the habit of saying while handing them the toys, "I saw that you are a very kind, beautiful, and talented little boy or girl, so I think you deserve an extra surprise toy." One night, there was a little girl. I did everything as usual, but when I gave her my little encouragement speech, she cried and held me tightly. I didn't understand anything, but I hugged her back as she kept repeating, "Thank you, thank you, thank you." Once I finished, her mom whispered to me that she was bullied at school and had low self-confidence. I continued to pack their stuff while making little jokes and said a big goodbye. 2 minutes later, the little girl came back to hug me one last time and told me, "You'll always be my best person." I had never felt like a best person until that moment. Story 69. Either I was amazing and adorable, meaning everything to her, or I was the best partner she ever had, and she had been wanting to be with me for a very long time. Story 70. I love your entire existence right now while circling the flat, outward-facing palm in my direction. Story 71. Usually, when people think of me, they see me as kind and humble. One time in school, we had to write about someone in the class, if I remember correctly. This one girl actually wrote about me. She said I was very kind, sweet, and said many complimentary things. The thing that stood out to me was that she said I had a sparkle in my eye and that I was a friend everyone should wish for. I was ecstatic and humbled by her comments. I was actually shocked she wrote about me because we weren't best friends or anything. We didn't hang out at lunch, we didn't talk a lot, but we never had issues with each other. Story 72. I have beautiful eyes and a great smile. Customers often tell me this, but I wonder if they truly mean it. Story 73. One of my friends told me he thinks of me as Mimir from the God of War games. I absolutely adore Mimir, so it's a huge compliment. He even made Mimir my picture for his contact list. Story 74. It wasn't meant as a compliment, but I was once told I was the reason someone didn't commit suicide. Story 75. Someone once told me I was like the brunette, depressed version of Miss Frizzle from the Magic School Bus. Another person called me a goth Mary Poppins. I personally like both options. Story 76. A woman I didn't know walked up to me and said, "You look like you'd be really good in bed." Instead of the appropriate response, I said, "Thanks." Story 77. When my son was in elementary school, he came home one day, and I was joking around. He exclaimed, "Oh, comedy," in such a delighted way and mentioned how school was so serious. It always stuck with me how, when he got home, it was silly time. I love that. Story 78. A real compliment? I have been told my poetry is good. I tend to doubt compliments on appearance, so this is what I will focus on. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.